Because we're doing it live. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Nie wchodź tak, nie wchodź teraz. Nie mogę teraz. Nie wchodź tak jeszcze. Okay. Hello, guys. I guess we're doing live. Sorry, just my kid just entered here the room. I guess today the plan for me is to start a short introduction, or at least short session on Gatling, and I'm gonna try to run some load tests against my JPEG store instance. A short disclaimer: I've never used Gatling, so it's gonna be something new for me. I'm gonna walk through the docs. I'm gonna walk through the steps here. The only thing I have prepared for now is an IDE. I have the whole app running, as you can see here. So, can you see that actually? I don't think you can. Okay, this here is my instance of the JPEG store. So this is running on my local Kubernetes cluster. I'm gonna also try to open some monitoring for that. I have Synos installed, or Synos. I think Synos is a more appropriate way to pronounce that. So yeah, I guess we can just start with the installation of Gatling and see how it goes. Right. I've never actually used Gatling for load testing of the web application. I know it's a DSL focused tool, so you get to write everything in the code. There is also a no-code solution, but I don't have it available for my local instance, so for my local testing. I suppose if you guys are interested, I can also try to arrange that. But right now, let's focus on the installation. I'm gonna just check briefly whether the stream is actually running because I'm talking to you guys. I think I am, but I'm not sure if actually. Okay, latency is fine. Chat is running. You guys should be able to see me. I had some bit of a hiccup with my OBS recently, so there is a chance that the stream will freeze my screen. I think it's a known issue for a M1 MacBooks that whenever you share the screen, um, it's going to somehow freeze once in a while. There is a workaround for that. I'll try to capture that as soon as I can. But yeah, just to let you guys know that it's something that may happen. Cool. So let's start with a Gatling web page. Gatling. Let's go with the gatling.io. I'm just gonna record everything, and this is not a sponsored stream or anything. So you get my own opinions on and comparing to the tools that I've used so far and know. So this would most likely be comparisons with a tools like JMeter or LoadRunner or NeoLoad, and mostly most of the cases. They do have an open source instance, which is what I'm going to use for my local testing. The enterprise, well, I will have to arrange that with the sales team before I can actually stream that. I'm pretty sure these guys will let me show you around this enterprise products. The way I understand it, at least from the documentations that I've read so far, is that the enterprise gives you more say verbose reporting, so they let you detect some trends and the degradation over time, so they let you actually keep more of the data everywhere. As it is an open source solution, I'm pretty sure there would be also options for that to keep that, but this is an enterprise grade product, right? So it's well tested and well, I guess, used by the companies, right? Okay, so I'm just going here to the web page and see whether I can actually download anything or whether I can set up something for my own test. I did set up one plugin for Kafka webpage, so I'm pretty familiar into what's happening underneath. Gatling is focused on the performance of the load testing tools itself. So with a relatively small amount of resources, you can generate huge loads. And this is thanks to the akka actor system. So unlike JMeter, for example, when you have a virtual thread that is actually corresponding to a physical thread, so on your system, these are lightweight threads, so they cost way less resources to maintain a virtual user, which is, well, considering that the threads sleep most of the time, like in the normal scenario, in the normal load test scenario, may not be a bad thing, right? So it's optimized for high throughput, high loads, and so that you can just run your load tests at very large scales, even with a single or two load generators. Okay, I'm gonna try to find exactly where I can uh, download. Okay, this is gonna be test as code. There is scripting assistance options. No code, as I said, to run it locally, you're gonna have to contact the sales team of theirs. I have not, so I'm gonna try to use the recorder. Recorder, as I understand, is similar to the proxy recorder or a web recorder by either LoadRunner, JMeter, NeoLoad. So basically a tool that can plug into your browser. And yeah, this is the HTTP recorder, right? So you can verify what it does. So it's a TypeScript. Okay, they're using the TypeScript ATK. I'm suppose because I'm planning to use Java and I'm not familiar with TypeScript or Scala for that matter. Let's see if this actually goes here. Okay, so they have the full recorder here with the configurator. So have a converter. They support HTTP proxy, but you can also, as we see, the way I see it, you can also just upload your HAR file. So that's pretty convenient. And they can transform these into your scripts, right? So this is just coming from the documentation here. You can select and upload your files. They've used the, at least in the, maybe I can shoot full screen here. They've used the HDR converter. I'm really hoping the format can be Java. There are already options for the referrers, for cache management, for HTML resources. This is very important when you like load a page and you cannot just um, enter your like one resource. What happens also from the browser level is that it spawns up to 6 threads that can, and I think for Firefox even more, that they can also download other resources like JS or like other CSS files, right? So it's not just the HTML body, but also the all the resources that are listed in the HTML file. I know that the JMeter does that. I think it's checked by default. I know that the LoadRunner does it as well. So it's good to see it here. Follow redirects. This is also normal behavior of the browser, right? So the redirects will be okay. This is a simulations folder. So I guess we're gonna have to look what's inside. By the way, I like this idea of this interactive like introduction. I have not even installed anything, and I'm just right now I can review what's happening on the screen for this feature. We're gonna try to do it ourselves also in a minute once it's finished. Okay, and so it generates the whole script, right? So it builds the protocol. The protocol, I think, is a base or the standard behavior, default set of default behaviors and default configurations for all the steps you're doing, right? So it's not necessarily a thing. You can set up the base URL. You can set up all the headers that will be standard. I'm pretty sure you can also override these for each of the steps, right? But this is a good thing to have. Similar, say in JMeter, when you have a default HTTP manager or matter cookie manager, stuff like that, this goes in here, right? So these are all the default behaviors for their steps. Okay, and they can do the okay, create a test and run the device. Not sure whether I want to sign up for Gatling Enterprise. Maybe I will. This is actually not a bad, way to start. So yeah, I'm gonna sign up. I'm gonna sign up for the Enterprise, and I'm hoping I can just re-sign after I don't know I reviewing the Gatling Enterprise. Okay. This gets my name right, my email is right. You guys are gonna dox me, right? Won't you? Cool. Let's see how it goes. I have to create an organization. Of course, my organization is gonna Perfluence Incorporated. Yeah, It's not an actually big company, but I'm into a technologies, I guess. Okay, technologies, my main industry, number of employees, zero is actually I'm not employing anyone. I'm not even employed in this company. Could be an option here. Just kidding. Okay, country, my country's origin. I get to choose who I am at my own company. That's pretty cool. I will be a consultant. I can be a consultant, that's fine. How did you hear about us? Well, Gatling's all over the place nowadays. I'm following the hype right now of theirs. Uh, I guess, but the first time I've heard of one was from a referral program. So, a referral from my colleagues. I have some credits, whatever they are. I don't even know. I get to subscribe to something. I'm not sure what that means. Okay, there's the simulations, there are some tokens, there are some sources. How do I right now? Okay, I get to create a new no-code test, but I'm pretty sure the way I have read that from documentation is that I will have to sign up. I'll have to run it or expose my application, right? Because they don't allow running local tests originating from the no-code locally. So I will have to expose my own application, which I don't want to right now. It is like stored here on a pseudo domain. I actually own this domain here, so performance.pl, but it's not exposed anywhere, right? So this one is actually just a bogus domain that I've set up for my own platform. So because I don't have my own application stored and test instance exposed publicly, I cannot use their own cloud instances for testing, right? Bit of a shame, but it's still, again, just contact the sales team and they should be able to help with that as well. So here we have the simulations. I'm guessing the simulation is just my test scenario. Here's my I did a typo here. Oh no, can I even contact the can I just change the name? I should be. Oh yeah, I can. Okay. Perfluence Incorporated. Save. I should do it. Okay, so it's been updated. Cool. Again, I'm looking for the recorder, Gatling recorder. How do I download this? How do I try this feature for free? Okay, it says I should be able to sign in with Google account, which I've signed in with. Hey, but this is for the no code. I don't want the no code. I want the Gatling recorder. See, this is what I like about those feature sessions that I can just walk through the steps that you're gonna see normally walking through. I guess you won't be fighting with those as much as I am right now. But how do I don't want the no code test builder, I just want the recorder. It says try this feature. Guys, if you work with Gatling, you should fix that, right? I just want right now, I just want the recorder. Nothing else. And I'm trying to record my sessions and import the files, but I cannot do it. Okay, try this another way. So Gatling, recorder, download. I guess this should be. Okay, we can just go with open source SDKs. Let's download Java. I guess I'll have to just walk through the docs and then try to somehow open that. This is the Gatling relay. Let's see if I can open this here. I already have one project opened in Gatling, but this is only for my Kafka plugin. Let's see what's inside. I've just downloaded some stuff. Okay, this is the Maven executable. This goes with Java, example, resources. Okay, this contains some basic simulation. Should be able just to open up this whole script. This has a POM and all the dependencies. So I guess if I open that with a IntelliJ, I should be able to just load it. Open. Right, so just put my desktop here. I'm gonna trust this, whatever. This one down. In the meantime, pretty sure the docs. Okay, there's how-to guide. Let's see, resources. There is a whole Java demo project. I love that it's in Java. I mean, just because I'm familiar with that. So there's a Maven wrapper. That's fine. That's cool because if you cannot install Maven, then the wrapper is pretty convenient. It has a POM here. So it does have all the plugins, so my Maven compiler plugin, jar, and Gatling Maven plugin. So this plugin, I assume, is going to let me do some recording. Practical guides, so create tests. Watch, because I know that the no code is a new feature here and they wanted to have exposed, but I'm also trying to get the recorder here up. If you know where that is, I'll be glad for a hint, but this goes with the downloads. No, let's go to the documentation maybe. By the way, I'm totally unprepared for the day. This is just me working as I would normally. So this is getting started. This is the guides, references. Okay, install, right, simulation locally. Pretty sure this recorder is also, because I've seen it some time ago, this recorder is actually available in form of a Maven plugin, so you can actually start it from Maven. Pretty sure that was the case, because I've briefly just reviewed these docs to see if I can actually start anything, but I've lost it. So introduction to the recorder. Okay, so this is the Gatling recorder. You have to plan the user scenario. I have some scenario in mind. That's pretty cool. We have to clone the Gatling demo repository. Okay, so I think I should have the Java version that is installed there. Let me just quickly validate that is the case. Java version. Okay, it's in version 23, my own, so that's fine. Okay. Okay, so this is an optional step. again, going through the Gatling Enterprise. That's cool. That's like I said, the Maven Gatling recorder is a separate command here, so I can actually use it like this. And from the on Mac OS, that should be fine. Okay, I'm just gonna open the new window of the terminal and let's see whether we can do it. Okay, where am I? Why? I'm pretty sure. Main. Okay, the mains key here. Let's see if this Maven wrapper actually launches the decoder. At that time, it should be downloading the stuff. So it does. Okay, that's fine. And it just works. So 1 point for Gatling. It just works when you do it like you want to. You can select the format that is Java. Another point up. You have a Kotlin, Scala, JavaScript, and TypeScript. Java versions 11 and 17. I suppose the 23 would also work. If not, I will have to downgrade, which is also fairly, like, these are all fairly new versions, so that's fine. So you can set up a proxy here on specific ports. You can go with the, like, this is the listening port, this is outgoing proxy. If you have a proxy on your machine, so on your I don't know, enterprise like laptop, you have to, you're forced to use the proxy, you can set up the outbound proxy, so it's like then completely invisible for you for the application. You can still access the web, for example. This is the package, this is the class name. So okay, I'll demo IO Gatling Perfluencer, obviously, and I want the purchase 100 Dalmatians, 101. Nah, purchase animal simulation. Pet. Yeah, I think pet is. Okay, so this is the simulation setup. It's gonna be saved in simulations folder. So the one I download it, that's fine. Encoding should be okay. Refers. This is a thing. I'm not sure how I feel about this checkbox being unchecked, you know? And it's not just about Gatling specifically, but also about all the other tools that I've seen, like working, and people, how people normally start working with those tools. Because most of the errors that I've seen, the functional errors originating in the tests, the load tests, uh, they're captured, of course, by tracing the HTTP code. But there's also a bit of a problem when the error is occurring in the body and the response is not asserted properly. Um, this is, of course, not Gatling specific, and probably the reason for the most functional errors that may happen during the like real load scenarios, right? I think like you should actually, as opposed to have it unchecked, you should have a very good explanation of why the response body should not be asserted as opposed to this, right? But this like, and this had caused many problems in the past for everyone. If I just, I don't know, try to use a JMeter, I just give you one example of the probably the biggest lie in the whole industry that we have. When we do a open up new window, say Okay, so when you have a test here, when you have your thread group, right, you want to add some sampler, whatever, let's let it be a debug sampler, right? And then you have your threads. Okay, that's not the assertion. I want a listener, view results tree, right? So when you run your test here, you hit play. Okay, let's just say dummy test. Dummy test, dummy Max. When you hit play and you see this green checkbox, this is probably the biggest lie of the load testing tool, right? And it's especially for the people who are just starting out with load testing, because this little checkbox here, this little green, implies that everything went fine, right? But it only checks for the status code and for the like any connectivity, right? So the application errors can just go unnoticed, right? So they could just slip through. You can actually not verify them if you don't, as long as you don't have any assertions. Like one of the things that we should be pretty careful about is, and I think that if people have good practices already in their organizations, they already do that, right? But the thing is here, a load testing tools, they don't encourage that in any way, right? So they will actually let you kill the application. And I think my screen actually got frozen right now. So yes, this is actually one of the instances that I have to probably restart the whole OBS. Let me come back in a second, okay? This stream should still be available because my screen just froze. I am back, and I guess my screen should work already. I guess I can see my screen, that's fine. If you guys have any questions, just ask them. That's totally fine. You can ask them later on as well. I'm gonna keep this stream and the recording open. But this is again just a loose conversation and loose say hints of the coming from my experience, right? So again, this green checkbox that I was referring to, if you would have seen my screen on live, this green checkbox is probably the source of the worst evil that has happened during the test, right? This is only a validation of the response code, which is not necessarily an okay or successful response coming from the application, which is normally what the people would expect, right? So if you're asking, if your manager is asking whether your test is okay or not, he's not asking whether you're getting the response code correct, but he's asking um, whether the application is responding okay and the about the customer experience. And similarly, the other way around, if you have a some dummy sampler response code 400, but it's an expected one, or say 404, but you're actually okay. This is something I hate about JMeter and the similar here. Okay, this is actually 404. This doesn't mark these as fail, right? But with the HTTP sampler, when you have a error codes, they will be appeared as a they will appear as the error, which is not necessarily an error itself, right? Sometimes you have a scenario which is a negative test that you actually constantly or are expecting some of the errors to happen, right? So this is where you will probably override the conditions of your response test somewhere in this somewhere as a post processors, but also something to keep in mind, right? That it's not necessarily a bad thing um, to have those marked as bad or wrong. Again, just use assertions. Back to the topic, because I will be probably constantly stray myself off the path. We have the recorder and we have the HDR converter. Not sure how the HDR converter would cover the pauses of that, but we can test both, I guess. Um, the proxy, you can, you know what? Actually, you can do that like this. There's not many filters there. I think by default there were many. And you know what? By the way, if someone's on LinkedIn, maybe they would be probably interested in knowing that the stream is live. So if you're, especially if they're not subscribed here, I know it's Sunday. I know that you guys have stuff to do, but it's also one of the few few spots that I actually have the time to do this for you guys. So this might be a good way to keep you notified about this. Yeah. Okay, and I can post the stream link. Where are my videos? My videos. Sorry for this, guys. I'm very slow. Like for a performance engineer, I'm pretty slow guy in anything really. So that's something about me. I'm never the fastest guy in terms of work. I hate doing manual labor, so I did like I think through stuff one too many times before I actually start doing something. So I'm always figuring out how to automate this. So probably the laziest performance engineer there is. Um, okay, but let me just right now. Um, I'm just gonna figure out a way to share these with you. Okay, share button. Somebody left a like. Thank you. Okay, I can just do sharing. Do the post here. I'm trying to leverage my already say uh, notable followership from LinkedIn onto YouTube. Not sure how it's gonna work. I'm done doing advertising or something like that. Oh, Mr. Golon. Hello, Mr. Esteves. It's nice to see you and thank you for the comment. Leave a like and you know what I've learned so far, especially for the comments section. When you leave a comment, not on the chat but in the comment, it doesn't count if it's below 7 words. So if you guys are leaving comments, please keep it at least 7 words so they actually count as an engagement. And also don't put any spam here, please. Streaming live, developing my first. I'm sorry that you guys cannot see that. I just don't want to show you the LinkedIn vids of my own. First Gatling load test. Okay. Gatling load testing. Oh no, but Ivan, if you're typing, not it's not in the chat. You can also leave a comment there. You know, comments actually matter more than the chat comments. So if you want to be very helpful, then writing the comments in the comment section under the video would be also nice because the chats they don't get persisted. You can review them live later, but at least that's something that I've heard. Okay, back to the topic and back to the Gatling. So we have the recorder. I'm still thinking whether I should do an HAR converter or a HTTP proxy. I'm gonna try the proxy because this is the stuff that I'm familiar with. I'm not sure how I feel about this allow list and the deny list being blank on the by default. This is something I would debate on. Uh, in, oh, if you're on the, you know what? If you're on the app, okay, you're probably right. You're probably right that the chat messages, but there was some way. There was some way to leave a comment. I remember, but yeah, I'm too busy for that. Um, I'm gonna use the HTTP proxy for the recording um, instead of HAR because well, that's gonna be the most for comparison with other tools, right? At least from my knowledge, right? I know that there are HAR converters for JMeter. I'm pretty sure this is also for other tools as well. But HTTP proxy is the most common that you get to use. So it's on the port 8000. Should be fine. Okay, let's hit start. So the proxy should now cover that. I can also maybe open up new window of the Firefox. I suppose it should work. Firefox is brave enough to ask me whether they, let's see this guy here. Firefox has asked me whether I want it to be my default browser. Always be that brave, you know. You miss 100% the chances you don't take. So Firefox, good for you. Uh, I don't have Edge installed though here, so I think just have to deal with the rejection. Okay, Firefox. Firefox and the proxy settings. There was some way to do that here in the settings, I guess. Okay, and you can set here network settings, especially for the browser, right? This is what I love about Firefox. You can set your own proxy configuration here. I think I feel that at least for the enterprise level, for the enterprise instance of Chrome or of Windows, they actually use the system proxy setting, so you have to override the system proxy. Or you can launch your own Chrome driver with the proxy settings in the command line. But yeah, that's I think a different story, right? So HTTP proxy, we can use port 8000. I'm not using HTTPS here, so this should be fine. Proxy, okay, this should be fine. HTTP, no proxy, DNS sucks v5. I suppose this should be enough for me to detect the events. So I have here the Gatling recorder. It's running. It says it does. So if I do like this, JPEG store, perfluencer, .pl, stands for Poland. Allow. Oh, see here? This is what it gets. Okay, so it detects the pauses. That's nice. So you can already see the pauses of the actions of the user. Um, that's actually pretty cool, right? So it takes the pauses already, and you can see them, right? Sometimes when you do the recording, they are implicit, those pauses here. I cannot modify them anyhow, but that's also good. That's something we can fix in later in the script, right? The JPEG store is under the JPEG store URI here, and we can enter the store, right? All of those actions, they actually, this is something that I don't like personally. I mean, I'm not sure how the event will be triggered like this. So normally, if when you do a recording, right, you want the resources like CSS or JS files to be downloaded implicitly for you in a way that the browser would like. So let's say 6 resources per like tops. Uh, but because the recorder doesn't have the what is this recorder, by the way? Because the recorder doesn't have the list of excluded or included addresses, in which the CSS will be one of those exclusions, it also captures those. I'm not sure how it's going to convert later into the events. You may have to actually delete those. But that's, I guess, one thing that we're going to have to worry about later. Okay, second then, I got kicked out. Not sure why. Probably have done something. I must have seen something. And this is only for the JPEG store. By the way, the JPEG store is running on my Kubernetes cluster and has its own dedicated MySQL database, which is also running on the Kubernetes. Um, this is not a standard or an production scenario that you would normally have to have the MySQL running on your Kubernetes. But that was the most convenient for me to not to worry about the networking and all the other stuff. I can do the full simulations later on. Okay, but back to the topic of the JPEG store. I'm gonna enter the store and see whether it's gonna capture all of those events here. So see here, this is something that I don't like because all those GIF files. First of all, who does GIFs when they're not moving, right? But these all have been recorded as a GIF files. I think I'm a little bit worried that they actually would end up as separate events in my recording. But let's worry about it later. So next action, I want to sign in as a user. Whenever you actually do the JPod store demo, there are two, I think, two users that are installed there normally by default. One of them is Acid. I'm not sure with the same password, right? So whenever you download any like instance of a JPEG store, especially for the Docker version, I think Mr. Naveen Kumar had prepared this one. So it has two users by default, and one of them is Acid, so with the same password. Log in, and this should keep me logged into the single instance. Now, my Kubernetes setup of JPEG store is actually three pod instances, pod replicas, but JPEG store itself keeps the sessions in memory, right? So I could have an instance of the multiple users login as the same users, or I can have a user that has a load balancing that can be load balanced between multiple pods. Well, so in case of and then I had to fix it actually yesterday, that the users were moved and were load balanced between all the pods, and because the session didn't exist on one of the pods, one of the instance, so one of the containers, um, the users got logged out or presumed that they have been logged out, right? The cookie has been overridden by the other session, so actually it has caused some problems. I have patched that really, that was the fix, but I have patched it with the session affinity option in the Kubernetes. So this is effectively for the Nginx ingress setup, right? So you can set the affinity based on the cookie. In this case, this is a Java application, so the most common, I think it's running like the core of the JPEG store is running on a Spring. So the core cookie that is determining um, your session is named J session ID, and it works, right? So I can sign in to the single instance, and it's going to constantly forward me to the same pod, right? So and if the next user will jump in, it also calculate the hash of this cookie, and the hash will be determinant of the pod in the load balancing. Okay, cool. I want to purchase a dog, right? And I like one of the artists had asked me for a 56 Chihuahuas. Do not ask me why. Whether it's male or female, I don't know. I'm gonna stick with male, I think. So I'm gonna add these to cart. And 56 specifically. I'm not sure whether it's true or not. I can do the upgrade of card. Okay, it's detected the new action for the card action. I think this will have to be separated later as separate steps. It had detected a short pause between the actions, so it might be actually a bit problematic later, but that's okay. Again, whenever you do a recording of the sessions, this is something that you constantly would have to review. What are the pauses in here? And I don't think I like the pause recording here because I've been talking to you guys a lot and there is only a few milliseconds pauses here, right? So I'm not sure how those events are calculated. They're not real time as in recorded anything. So if you do probably most likely if when you do any recording, they will not represent your end user. I think what they do is what they calculate the distance, the duration of whole transaction end to end, and then the next transaction would occur. So this is something to keep in mind, I guess. But we're gonna also see how it's resolved later when you see the actual script. Okay, so I have the card here. It's been updated. I can proceed to the checkout because I only needed 56 chihuahuas. Here are our card details. Do not use them, please. This is my real card. Nice. Okay, but the billing address, I was asked to send it to a gentleman with name DJ, and yeah, I think that was his name here. I don't know where he lives, so that's totally fine. And he's using Mastercard, of course. Okay, continue, I guess. And I have my own first order, right? So I have the order here. It doesn't have a number. I don't think that's the right one to do actually. So I think when I do, I should be able to review my orders, right? Okay, so no, it doesn't have the order. It's just for the confirmation screen. That's cool. That's cool, because right now it has an order number and it's valid order, right? So all of the costs are here. What the item I purchased, what was the total number of dollars? That's $7,000. Okay, but that's 56 chihuahua. That's totally fine. Okay, my account. Should I do a validation here? Okay, let's do a validation also as well here. Uh, I don't want to set up the information. I just want to go through my orders. And this is the only way that I found on the JPEG store that you can review orders from. And there it is. Order number 1,000. That's a fair number. And there it is. So you have a MasterCard. It's a fake number. I'm not sure why it says fake number. It's my real card number. Do not try to purchase anything with it. And there it is. The whole order is just there, right? So with that, I can sign out and clear the session. One of the things about the signing out, you know what? I can right now. I think I can just stop and save here. Does it do anything? Did it actually convert anything yet? That's a great question. Okay, it's there. It is actually there. Okay, let's see how it did. Okay, so it detected my base URL. That's fine. That's my JPEG store, perfluencer.pl. That's actually pretty cool. So we did some entries. These are the headers of the coming from the browser. Okay, they have mapped. Okay, this is very cool. So it splits the headers based on the common occurrence, so they don't land anywhere like everywhere, but they would be applied to the groups that the Gatling have captured them. That's pretty cool. This is actually pretty cool scenarios, and they are still modifiable, right? So I have a set of headers like 21, 20. They may be referring to the steps. I don't know that, but something that to keep in mind, right? So you have a full step here. This is the protocol. They will be your default values. I'm guessing at least. You have here your sequence. This is the priority for the headers one. I guess this will be only for the call number one. Then the call number three, you have all the accepts tests as well. Let's see what it actually does. Okay, now I see what they have done here. This is actually going pretty cool. So the request zero, this is my first call to the page. And this checks, okay, this includes automated checks for the 404. That's pretty cool because when I have recorded this session, the browser actually had returned a 404 to me, right? And okay, this I right now I'm very pleased with the outcome of this recording and of this session, because I can verify and validate that this actually does and validates what I had actually performed on my browser. And this normally costs time, right? So if you only rely on a fully successful, fully positive scenarios, you would have to type this all manually yourself, right? But instead, when you just do the recording, it is actually detecting, hey, I actually have 404 and I'm expecting a 404 on this particular endpoint. Great, this is awesome. Okay, then it has a pause, and see what I've raised the concern about the pause duration. That in the recording they were appearing as few milliseconds. On the final simulation, they actually are presented in real time. Okay, so this is actually going way better than I was expecting. Request two here. Not sure about a naming here. I guess this would be like this is up to me to modify these actions, because well, if I when I do like request for, mm, I would rather have a some way to name these. I guess I've missed it somewhere in the recording. If I think I've missed it and there were some options to name these transactions during the recording, just to let me know, and I will probably try it later, right? Uh, there you have the pause here of 74 seconds. Not something that I've seen on the recording, which is also fine, right? They may be implicitly checked. Then you have HTTP call to request of five. That's all totally good. Uh, and this is the resources, right? So this is actually pretty cool. So it explicitly calls for all the resources you have recorded. That's also pretty nice and cool touch of the application. Although if the web page is like this, and you are actually downloading all the GIFs here, this scenario will be a bit bloated. So then modification of that coming, if you have multiple sessions here, multiple steps, this might get a bit too verbose. But again, for this simple scenario, we've only ended up with a 200 lines of code. That's totally fine. That's totally okay, I guess. Uh-huh. And what else is there? So we have a pause, another call to the sign-on form. This is where we have set up the param. That's also very good, very good, pretty readable for the implementation. See here, these source params, they would have to be somehow extracted from the page before, right? So when we extract the sign-on form, these are the parameters that would tell you which page is coming from, and I think there is some form of validation coming from before, so from coming from the page before that these actions would be invoked, right? There are some guys. My screen just froze, and nobody just told me about it. I don't like this. I don't like the OBS. I think I'm gonna switch to some other tool, because it might get a second. I'll have to walk through the whole steps again. Window capture, display capture. Okay, thank you, Ivan. Thank you for the comments. So again, this I was showing actually who the whole steps, the whole thing. I don't like the OBS anymore, or maybe it's just the OBS with my MacBook. I have heard about these problems, and I've read about these problems that the switching of the screen helps. But then again, I don't constantly look at those. I'm looking at one screen. I have the preview on the other, but I'm like, this is still a bit new to me, so I'm sorry for any confusion. So again, the steps. the steps from generated from the recording. You have a set and groups of the headers. That's nice. This is very optimal setup. And you have here the calls, right? So you have the HTTP. So this is the main call to some endpoint, and it also does the resources. I'm not sure how it's resolved later, like underneath. Typically, your browser has like 6 threads, 4 to 6 threads to download these resources at once. It does also that concurrently. So I guess the setup of the Gatling is pretty say similar to the one that the browser would do. But one of the things, and this is actually for all the load testing tools that are protocol based, they don't do any rendering. A lot of confusion comes from, especially the tools that use JavaScript, for example. So when you think that, hey, the tool is using JavaScript, it must be rendering also because the browser also does the JavaScript, right? Which is wrong, which is a completely bogus claim. That if as long as you don't use any web browser based load testing tool, which most of the tools actually support right now, they don't do any rendering. So you don't have the full end-to-end, as in rendering has finished view, right? I'm sorry to break it down for you, but that's the way it goes. Again, to show you and to verify the script behavior, we have the request for, and this guy has all those lists. This guy has all those lists of GIF files, so all the resources downloaded. A bit, say, I'm not worried about this for this particular scenario, but for the pages that has a lot of resources, this might be a bit problematic, right? Especially in terms of visibility. So the next step is request here, and okay, now the login part is a bit important, and this is where I would have to learn how to actually parameterize the scenario, right? Because see here you have the form param. You can enter the username, that's the key, and of course we need the value. I cannot just reuse the same user for a load test tool. I need some diversity of the tools. I'm pretty sure it supports the CSV file, so this is the one we're gonna start with. And another step would be to extract these numbers, these values from the body before, right? So when you open this guy here, so the request 19, I suppose, the values from these parameters should be available there, right? And I'll have to learn how to extract these before I actually run any load test. Otherwise, the validation might fail, and it actually may crash. So the same here, right? We have some actions, we have some updates. I'm pretty sure these will be unique values. Maybe not for the source page, but the FB, I'm pretty sure this will be a unique value. And there can be some validation. There can be some validation done by the server. The same here, right? So you can see here it also has um, a few parameters that we'll have to extract. I guess we could add that to some HTTP protocol. I'm not sure really. I'm not sure how to think about it, and I'm not sure how the infer HTML resources would work with a set of defined resources already here, right? So I'm not. But this is something I'll have to find out, right? This is something that normally you would pay attention to. I don't want them to be duplicated. So if you download the double amount of resources in your load test and your users will not, then you might end up with different or like different requirements for capacity, right? You might end up actually over provisioning your application because of your test incorrectness, right? So that's something to keep in mind. But that's again, I don't know much about it, so this is time for me to learn. Just find it quickly. What happens here? Okay, I have a preview. of the video. Okay, cool. So if I run this test right now, I am not sure what is going to happen. So maybe we should just do it. Maybe we can just validate what happens when I just rerun this test here, and I can add a Maven, and I can just do a Gatling test. I think this is coming from the documentation here as well, right? So when I run the recorder here, we can add the source, a simple manual case. Pretty sure this is the, yeah, this is coming from the locally for debugging, right? For debugging tools. So uh, you can actually verify here the test itself. I'm using Linux. Sorry, I'm using Mac OS. So this should be doable here. And in IntelliJ, this is the same steps, right? So just do it here. And let's see whether I can download. I think I have two steps here, so it would let me choose which simulation I would like to run. Let's see. Let's see how it goes. So this is the first build. It might take a bit longer than usual. And this is coming from the Maven setup. It tries to download all the dependencies right now. So the POM, sorry, and then it detects all the dependencies. And okay, and this is the thing I'm being asked for. So I can do example basic simulation, or I can purchase best simulation, right? The one that I've recorded. Just go back to the previous screen. I need to make sure that you guys actually can see the same thing I do. Okay, I'm gonna stick with one, and let's see what happens. Just hit one. Start. Okay, it's running. It's running here. So you can see here it's in progress. It is actually running the full simulation. What I would have to change most likely is the pauses right now. Actually, there should be an option to run this without pauses here. But now that I think about it, for the simulation here, like I don't want to keep the like a single user with the same pauses. I'm pretty sure there is something there like that. Maybe in the setup here, maybe in the I don't know protocol or something like that. But I don't know where that is. So we could leave it running for now, but I was talking a lot for each of the steps here. So I think we're on the step 2 right now, knowing that these thing here, you know what, I'm just gonna decrease the pauses to like 5 seconds. Okay. I'm just gonna delete, take these pauses down to 5 seconds for now. Yeah, there's 2 minutes waits. I don't even have that much topics to talk about for 2 minutes with you guys. So I'm just gonna keep it lower. Each of the steps. I'm pretty sure I know where these steps would fail. My first candidate would be those FP parameters that will be wrong, but there's also like the source page. I'm not worried about much, but the FP one I think is pretty unique. So it might be a bit problematic. I think I should stop the test already because it's not going to finish in this century. You guys know how long I've talked about it. So, okay, this guy should be here. This test is still running. I think I should be able to kill it somehow. Can I do it? No, this is just a configuration here. It says that it's still running. Okay, it has been finished with code 120, that's fine. So I can rerun it right now with way smaller pauses, right? So I took the 5 seconds for each step. Still a bit generous for the actions that a user would take, but also wondering whether they have any sort of organic weights like that, right? I'm not a fan of putting a static numbers for that. I know it's easier and more reliable for for the calculations when you want to assert or inflect some certain level of concurrency. But with the user simulations, it's a bit different, right? So you want to stay as close to the production scenario as possible. Um, but yeah, I think both both are fine. Okay, see, this guy is no route to host. Okay, this is a bit weird. Why would there be an error here? In theory, this should use my etc host setup, right? So it should not be. It's just a bit weird. I'm pretty sure it has to do with my setup with my settings of of the DNS. So locally, I'm referring to the JPEG store influence. I guess I could just right now, for the sake of my own time, I could just replace that with a IP address of my cluster. But that's not something that I would blame Gatling for. But I think, although if I have some configurations I want to keep on my machine, this would be a good way. But it cannot resolve the host somehow, right? So I'm just gonna copy over the just quickly double check again whether my etc host. No? Ah, of course. No, it's hosts. I was right, I just forgot to type in any editor. So this is actually, okay, this is the IP of my local network. I use here. And then it should work with this address. Origins, it's fine. This is just a header. I suppose I won't get any the global calls, they work okay. There was one KO, which is no route to host. There's only one error though, so I'm not sure how to interpret that and whether my assertion of the error was correct. I'm going to leave it like that, yeah. So before changing that, and this is my report. All right, so there was only one failure, which is the request 0. Okay, this is not bad. This is actually not half bad because this might be this 404 error that I had on the at the start. Okay, so everything else worked fine, and the resolution of my local DNS was also very good. So that's fine. You can see here the latency is very low. I'm running everything locally, so my workstation and my Kubernetes cluster is just under my desk. I am connected over the Wi-Fi though, so there might be a bit of network connectivity here. But the report says that I'm actually very good. Again, request numbers. I'm pretty sure these would be somehow renameable, and even during the recording. So that's something I would probably have to re-review again. The statistics here, this is also looking good. I think the distribution is fine. go with details. Let's see what the details are for. Number of requests per second. This is also good. Responses per second. These are synchronous transactions. The responses would match the requests. Response times again, we'll go with throughput. My throughput is way too low for any problems. So, and you know what? I think this is the number of requests. This actually could work. So this tells me a few things. That the dynamic parameters that I have here in the JPEG store are either not used at all, not validated by the application, or I'm still constrained to the same pod, and they have just like they still come out as an okay. There is also another option that these parameters are valid for a certain time, right? They're not unique per se, but they are valid for some time. And let's say in 30 minutes or when I restart my application, they will no longer be accepted, right? So this is still a thing to validate and check before actually running the thing. But you know what? I'm gonna do a thing that you should never do. Uh, this is also me validating the behavior of the application itself. So it's not just the Gatling. Um, I'm going to run this with 100 users. The main mistakes that I'm doing here right now, that I know of, are constrained to these, like this reusing the same user, right? This I'm expecting there's gonna be a lot of contention. I'm expecting there's gonna be a lot of problems with that. I can also then later validate the behavior of the application here, which is, I guess, nice. Okay, the setup here, you can actually specify any ramp ups and any ramp downs. I don't want to do that. I mean, I'm not going to do it. Later we can validate that. But let's see if this thing actually works. So far, it's been very pleasant experience for me to validate it. That was actually pretty cool. Let's see. Let the test run in. Let the test run for a while. Yeah, it's so quiet, so this should be good. I also have, because I'm a big fan of monitoring, I'm not sure if you guys have noticed that, but to to monitor the behavior of the application, I have also set up a signals monitoring for my cluster. So let's see how the samples behave, how we can actually verify the latency of the application, right? So the simulation is running, that's fine. Uh, it is set up to spawn 100 users at once. That's also good. So I have not specified the duration of the simulation. So I guess it's just gonna do a one step, so one instance, one pass of the for each user, and it should be finished, right? But it should also create at least 100 of the samples for my application. And this is my signals instance. I it is installation of the signals is also very pleasant and very easy. So I just follow the steps on the documentation. There were like 3 of them, and I had my services installed. And you can see here, this is my JPEG store application. It already detected that. I've used the auto instrumentation of the JPEG store, so kind of useful. This is the latency for the services. One of the things that I know certain people would very thoroughly enjoy to see the app decks in the on the charts, and there you have the endpoints here, right? So you have a fairly fast services, but you also have a fairly slow one. So we're gonna tackle these, see what actually was the slow part, and maybe we can improve it somehow. Maybe we can make it scale better, right? So the action steps, but this action, as when you look into the implementation of the JPEG store. And I think I've actually have already froze the screen, so not sure. Maybe I should go with window capture. Display. Again, sorry for that. I'll have to probably review again the setup here. Okay, so this is the screen of the for my JPEG store service. You can see here there's a lot of not a lot, but there is a significant amount of calls that were over a second long. That's way too much for anything. So we can review what actually happened here, what was the duration, and where the latency was coming from, right? What I've noticed, at least in the you know what, I think it's also frozen already. So I've just started that, but it actually, I'll have to probably change the screen again to some other. Let me just go with the other display. Built-in retina. Just find it here. Oh, it doesn't show the. Okay, that's weird. It's just like a. Okay, just go back here to another display. Now, does it work? It should be working. Okay. So these, so the table, the column name here, duration nano, and then it shows milliseconds. That's kind of confusing for me, but still not a deal breaker for anything, right? We can sort them. I think we can. We can sort them somehow. Can we sort them in this screen? I'm not even sure. Okay, let's look at one of the calls that took over 300 milliseconds, right? So you can see here, this also stores the calls to the inventory. So this is the cart opening page. This is fine. And when you see a wildcard action, at least on the JPEG store, you can also validate what type of action that was from the URL, which is a card action. So the card action takes the longest. Also, I'm not necessarily, I do not necessarily know why it takes the longest. That's a bit of a right now a mystery to me. We can also probably validate it later, but I'm guessing if I see this guy, for example, there's the URL here. I could probably also, okay, this is also the card action. So the card is just taking 300 milliseconds for whatever reason. And it's not an IO operation. It is something like in there, like underneath, right? Because the SQL call itself doesn't take that much. By the way, one of the anti-patterns: do not let your application ever use a root user for your for your application. That's something that you should not do on your production system. But these were pretty fast itself. There was also something happening underneath that was taking very long time. We can look at it later. For now, I want to see how this application report got finished. So we had some KO 93 calls to be exact, which is a bit odd because I thought that we're gonna have at least 100 of those. But I guess the in at once users doesn't necessarily invoke 100 transactions, but this is just spawning 100 of those. I'm not sure. Okay, let's this is kind of interesting. Mean throughput, so the requests per second. I love this metric here. I mean, I love it. So the metrics, the request per second tells you the injection rate towards the application, right? As opposed to the transactions per second, where you have a when you can determine the maximum capacity of a system, requests per second tell you how many you have actually injected, right? If there's a discrepancy between the two, then you see that there's some delay happening. But on a production system, I would always go for the request per second as opposed to the transactions per second, right? The transactions per second can be also already a result of some delay that was happening, or of some fluctuations on the system. But when you present the requests per second, you know that the slowness or the delays on the application are a direct result of some burstiness of your load at a certain period, right? And they can help you analyze the problems earlier on, right? So when you select the transactions per second as your metric, you like the point in time you select for the maximum TPS would be already after all the fluctuations have finished, right? So you have to go back in time to look for any occurrence of some, some disturbance in your system, as opposed to the request per second when you have a burst, when you have a some burst in the request per second, you would know that it's a direct result of the burstiness of the load, right? And this is the place, exactly the spot or the times that you would look for where the problems have started, right? So if you see a request per second, but they are growing higher in time, this is where you would start looking for some clues in your logs in your system when the problems have started occurring, not when they ended, right? Way easier for any validation. One second, I'll have to just briefly connect my phone because it's about to die. Second, and I guess I've shut down half of my systems as well. The stream should be live still, I guess. No, it's not. Okay, it is. It is, and I can also show the screen if I was showing the signal, but I'm not. So I'm gonna have to research some things here. Sorry for that. I only have one cable for some reason. But I guess this is just a part of learning again. Cool. So we have those requests here again, redirects. Uh, I think I was looking at the only one. No, okay. So the summary here says that there are some errors. You have 500-ish. Okay, this is actually pretty good. So the request here again, the report coming from a single test run. This is also nice. You have the resource 1,000 times, like 1,400 times downloaded the CSS file. That's not a good sign. I mean, normally they would be cached. You would think that they would be cached, but also I think the users, if they're unique users and with no caching here enabled, they would just download these. But this goes for all the steps, right? So I guess when you open multiple times the same page, these resources are not cached. I'm not sure whether they're not cached on the browser level or whether they're not cached um, on the load generator level. So this is something to validate here, but these numbers are very high, right? So regardless of whether it's your browser not doing that or the load testing tool, it's worth looking at. And I can see that my screen froze again. You know what? I'm just going to try to right now probably switch to the window capture because it's not a good sign. Guess Mac OS screen capture. Should I do a window here? I can do a window or I can do the application. Not sure. We'll see. What's the best way though here? Okay, OBS Studio. Configuration, yeah, extents. Sorry, it's just me learning. It's everything new to me still. That's why I'm picking up those live streams so I can just try it on you guys, and then when I do it later for larger scale, I can just schedule a full meeting and do it. Since this was more a bit of a casual stream, I'm not worried too much. Not worrying too much, but again, now my display just died. What's happening here? See, this is the report that I'm seeing, but I don't actually have this enabled. Huh, pretty interesting. Okay, now it works. Again, let's see when it freezes one more time. Cool. So we have here the report. It looks very nice. So it looks like it actually works. So it tells me a few things. First of all, it shouldn't work, and that's to blame on the application level because the application should not allow that many users to enter the application at the same time. So that's one thing they should be aware of. I'm also trying to pinpoint the request that had caused the problems. So actually, if I look at the percentiles, all of them were slow, right? So it looks like it's some sort of an issue with the application scaling. It could be a lack of threads, it could be lack of say connections available. Um, but this is something that is definitely to look into when it comes to the latency. Guys, I have to probably reopen this thing, the the OBS thing, uh, because it just crashed. So I'll have to reopen it. Just forgive me, and I will come back to you in a second. Hmm? Okay, I should be back. You should also hear me well, ish, I guess. Let's see how this goes, and let's see how this looks right now. Are some people in chat? It says my OBS quit, but it does not. I can see my screen. I can see you guys. I can switch the scene. I cannot remotely do the focus here on this camera. I'll have to learn it as well. But that's fine. That's okay. So we have some latency problems when we're scaling. This is most likely the problem with the application itself. I have not put any constraints or limits onto the app, so it should actually work on the levels that I wanted to. We can validate a few things. If I can unlock the screen, I just have to have a preview. That's sorry. Again, this should work as well. So this is most likely a problem with the application, right? So something's not telling here, something's pulling the response times to the limits. The tail latencies are very high, not the ones that I would expect. So this is something to fix. We can look at that from the signals, I guess, if we have valuable metrics. I'm not sure whether actually you have any, so this might be a bit of a challenge to verify that. Now, the part when we have validated the Gatling as a load testing tool, I think that's more or less done, right? So the execution of a test was pretty smooth, and the development of the test went actually very well, far better than I expected. Uh, I like if I was to add anything, maybe something that I've missed myself, but probably I have missed it on the GUI. That was the naming of the transactions that I was recording myself. Um, I was just fix the focus again on this camera. Okay, now it should be better. So naming of the transactions, because I don't want the names of the requests 0 to a few hundred when for a complex scenarios. That's like unusable. But I have probably missed that myself. So that's something probably on me. What else? Uh, mm, Probably a detection of the parameters that I should be parameterizing, if that makes sense. Meaning, if I just have a reply of a test, and I know that, okay, I know that I can count on occurrence until the correlation of the cookies sessions, stuff like that. But I know that I'll have to probably add some parameterization of some of certain parameters. Uh, this might be a good add-on for the recording. I'm guessing this is something to validate for the no-code solution, right? But anyways, if you want to deal with the code and if you have a field that is named username, 99% of the time you would want those parameterized, right? So something like, hey, this maybe should be parameterized or not would be good, but it's also not a thing that's I don't know, Jmeter does out of the box, right? This is something that I've seen done by the other load testing vendors. It was pretty convenient, right? So this convenience was a bit nice, uh, especially if you want to like run the load test, right? Uh, the reporting for the standalone transaction for the standalone and not enterprise not enterprise setup was also pretty say understandable, and that was also not half bad. But I'm guessing the enterprise, when you have multiple teams, when you have multiple engineers working on the same project, when you want to do a fast reporting on how to do management of how the application behaves comparing to previous releases, then that is the only way to go, right? So the enterprise platform would be the best way to go to. What else is there? think I think that's it. And then we can focus on resolution of why my JPEG store is so slow, because this is something that I have not expected. Even at 100 concurrent users, I think my platform should be designed at least to handle a bit more. So we can look at that as well. At the standard, say, recording, what I was doing where I was just doing a few calls, nothing concurrent. The latency was in the 20 or like 50 milliseconds per call. So obviously there is some bottleneck here we can improve. So that's actually kind of cool engineering exercise for me right now. If only I can make this setup here that I have work, because it has some problems. I'll have to reconnect everything again to make my camera work here. I'm trying to keep these things, online. Uh, it also is not the most sturdy setup that I have here. So there's a lot of cables going on here. There's a lot of lamps, stuff like that. I'm trying to make it more, say, professional. So that's something for you guys for the future. But I'm hoping the scheduled streams would be more say acceptable for you. I'm sorry if that you guys are spending some Saturday watching a guy struggling to patch a few cables here and there instead of actually learning. So if that's what you came here for, and then I'm sorry to taking up your time. If you have some advice for me on how to fix that and how to make it better, then just let me know and I can improve that as well. So my screen is again frozen, and I don't like this. Right now I can see that the screen shows the Synos instance, but it's actually not. I'm quite convinced this is something to do with the OBS thing. I see totally different thing on my screen right now on my display. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to switch to this particular window and see if this changes here. So you should be able only to see you should be able to only see my tab that I have opened, window capture, and this should be coming from not the terminal. It should be somewhere in the code desktop. This here. Okay, I think this should be enough. Okay, so let's see what we can actually squeeze out of this setup from the Sino's perspective, right? This is we have the samples here done by the auto instrumentation. I would probably instrument it slightly different. I know that the action endpoints are meaningful to the transaction, right? So instead of having an asterisk for all the actions that have been aggregated, I would probably do some other reporting and other say metrics for that. Actually, if you think about that, because here the name of the span is just like with an asterisk, right? And then to actually verify what has been done here under this action, you have to go here and validate the URL, which I probably have missed because I'm scrolling too fast as usual. The URL was, this is the route. What is the URL here? Account. Okay, there's the URL path, right? So normally, and this is specifically for this, I would probably instrument it some differently. Instead of using the the route parameter, I would use this guy here for to the last section of the URL as a name of a transaction. Far more easier and far more understandable. Because later, if you have the traces here, and all of them are named the same, then what's the point of even aggregating them, right? Not much, like especially if you have some, time sensitive operations, and the rest are acceptable if they're slow, you may just miss the big picture, right? I'm pretty sure if we actually set up a dashboard, let me just validate that. Add a new panel, say time series. I want the latency. Plot with query builder. Okay, I want the latency. Cross expanse. Are those actually? These are the metrics only, right? Can I just go with the traces? Of course, I can go with traces. I want the P95-ish. Aggregate, I want the thread ID. Nah, I don't think the aggregate attribute. See, I'm missing here the option to I'm missing here the option to actually order and aggregate this by the last segment. So this will be, or RURI or something like that, right? I have the response code, I have the port, which is also good, server port, thread ID, not ideal, has error, right? So you know what? Traces. Oh, this is actually pretty good. Okay, so I have a URL path. Aggregate attributes requires status error. Okay, aggregate attribute. I want them to be aggregated by the status code. See here. Okay, but the status code is just going to be like that, right? So I don't think I like this here. HTTP. Response status code flags. Why would I choose the traces? Okay, this is the condition here. So I can set up URL path in, but I cannot group by. I should have, of course I can do. So I need the URL path. This is also, quite new setup for me. I don't use the CNOs on a daily basis, but that's something that can be achieved, I guess. So an aggregate attribute is required, status error. Okay, and now this is the chart that I like more, right? So this is going to present me the P95, I guess, for each endpoint, right? Far more usable than just aggregates of like all of all the endpoints possible, right? We can even do that like this. So if I have this is where this selector it comes in handy. So your path contains action, right? And then I only have the action steps here defined. Okay, that's pretty cool. This is something we can work with. So the card action goes up. The order is, I'm assuming I'm going with the P95 response time here. Because this is the P95, we can also choose some other aggregates here. But all of them, they come with the same direction. So the order endpoint is actually the slowest one here. So it goes in seconds, and the order action is the slowest of them all, right? So I'm guessing there must be some sort of normally if there's a problem with with the application or with some bottleneck on the, I don't know, database level, all of these would go up, right? But the way I see it right now is only the order action is going up here. So there's something synchronized or something that is blocking the order API, and something that prevents us from running at the larger scale, right? I can also, okay, I'm gonna do this, select the panel. How do I name this panel? Okay, this is the name of panel here. So latency per endpoint. So I'm not worried about visuals for now here. This is the latency per endpoint. I also want a panel with a utilization per pod. I'm on the metrics, pod, container. Okay, this is the metrics where I want the CPU utilization here. Average. Yep, average utilization is fine. They will be aggregated for a few seconds. And my screen has frozen again. There is something wrong here. Very wrong with this thing here. Let me just validate. It's not just the window. Maybe it's the cursor itself. Maybe I shouldn't be pointing that. Okay, let's see how this works. It's not just the window, it's everything actually here. Okay, so where pod name contains JPEG store, right? Average by, and I want the pod name. Okay, this is a variable. Okay, CPU utilization. If I can type correctly, per node. Save changes. Okay, this should give me the average CPU utilization here. And this should give me the average response times, right? So you can see here, and this is something that I was worried the most about, was the utilization of the load balancing, right? So I've mentioned that I've set up the affinity of the pet store, so of the of the sessions per cookie. So my ingress, like my Nginx, is reading the cookie that I'm sending to the application, and then based on this cookie, the J session ID, it forwards to a designated pod, right? So that I have a sticky session here for the time being of the duration of my session, or or where the pod dies, right? If the pod dies, it's going to have to redeploy and have to rebalance the whole sessions. But the sessions are still only stored in the memory. So as soon as the pod dies, the session will affect and this is going to affect the whole. It's going to affect the whole set of users that were currently connected to it, right? So it's not a resilient setup, but fair enough for a validation. Okay, so we have a utilization per pod, probably a memory utilization per pod should be also good. I'm not sure whether I expose or whether the auto implementation of the Java clients would expose the metrics like GC pauses. Very important for Java applications, right? The Java pause is a stop the world event, so everything just stops. But I have some few tricks up my sleeve to validate that. So let's check with the memory utilization. So this is disk. Of the network errors. I don't suspect I'm gonna have many network errors on my system because well everything is running on a single machine really. So everything is like on the Proxmox, fully virtualized. So the network is should be completely clean. I don't suspect it's gonna have many of those. We have the CPU limit utilization. This is also good, but I want a memory container memory limit. No, this is not a request. I just want the container memory usage. I don't use any requests or limits for this application for now, so that should be okay. And see here, I'm already again with a frozen screen. I don't know what happens here. I really don't like this whole thing. I will probably consider using other software with my machine. I do not like this. Okay, so where I need a pod name. Pod name lot contains is that a good thing? Kubernetes pod name contains JPEG store. And now average. Yes, the average should be okay. Average memory utilization, and this should be averages by Kubernetes container name. Why does it? No, should be pod name. Of course. Great. So we have here multiple pods. They use different number of. Yeah, I think. I don't think this is much of a use here. I mean, probably legend format. This is cutoff main. Good to use with. I'm assuming this is in bytes. These volumes. So memory usage. I'm assuming this is in bytes, but I some form of a utilization would be nice, right? And again, this is a Java application, right? So when you just validate the utilization or the memory usage for the specific pod, you're missing out on the big piece, which is a JVM internals, right? I'm not sure these metrics are actually forwarded when I have done the auto instrumentation for those transactions. Suppose they should be there, but not sure how to validate it. Okay, going back to my already not saved, I'm gonna run the test again. Let's see if we can spot anything from the golden signals at least. I'm gonna run the same test, validate whether we can work with that. Okay, again, 100 users, very messy test, very straightforward, but then it should show us some samples, and we should also see some difference, at least in the CPU utilization, right? With memory, this is a bit tricky part, because if you set a JMX and JMS values to the same, the memory usage for your pod will be exactly the same, right? They wouldn't take more than that, they wouldn't take less than that. This just by monitoring the memory utilization from the pod perspective will be flatline at all times, right? As opposed to the CPU. So in terms of the Java applications, in terms of monitoring JVMs, more meaningful metrics would be the utilization of all the spaces or the segments of memory, um, depending on your garbage collection algorithm, right? So if it's G1, you would want the Eden and Origin spaces, and like survivor space as well. If it's a serial one, you also want for the parallel, you also want the dedicated spaces to be monitored, right? And overall memory utilization for the entire JVM, right? This is what you would take the most out of it. I'm not sure whether this default Java instrumentation actually exposes those metrics. Maybe it does. Oh, this is something that actually it does. So you can see here, JVM GC duration bucket. That's beautiful. Okay, I love this. So this is coming from the I'm not showing that, sorry. This is coming from the JPEG store. So it actually does show the thread count. It counts the memory limit for the JVM, which is okay, which is good. GC duration bucket. This is also very helpful. So I guess we could also organize these into some sort of a histogram and validate. And because you can see here, all of the JPEG store actually exposes metrics. Great. I have no further questions. We can add those to the dashboard, I guess, ish. So we're gonna add new panel. We're gonna add some histogram here. Metric name. So GC duration bucket. Let's see the bucket here where the pod contains store. Let's go with P99 by could actually do that by the GC action. Okay, that's pretty cool. This is far more than I expected. Okay, so let's go with a GC name. I'm guessing for the same garbage collection, the GC name parameter will be the same. Again, the screen just froze. That's the fourth time today. I guess at least I can see my face here. Not sure what's worse, honestly. Okay, screen capture. Not sure why that is. So the CPU wise, I'm all fine. Memory pressure seems nice. I mean, not something crazy. P95. Let's go with the pod name. Let's see how this histogram will work. Work condition may not be the best thing to do. Okay, but this duration bucket was supposed to be. Yeah, this was too good to be true. The metrics said that we had these buckets for the GC available, right? So GC action, GC name, no, I don't want that. They were specifically here. This is the request duration bucket. This is the histogram. There are some gauges here. I love this setup here. I love I can just browse all the metrics I have here, all the instances, how many samples we have here. Very lovely, but I'm also just after the GC buckets. There are some network errors, there are some pod errors. That's fine, that's lovely. But I need the buckets here again. Type go with the histogram. Show me the histograms here. Where were the units here? So this is a cumulative metrics. This goes to the process ID. That's fine. GC name, young generation, and concurrent GC. See, this is lovely. This is exactly what you want. Instead of just getting through the logs, you just have those metrics in here. I genuinely love that, but I also would want that to be exposed to me for the metrics. I guess my mistake that I did here was to select the wrong size, wrong sampling time. So I guess the GC events were not there for the last 30 minutes. Let's go the last for 3 hours. Metrics again, so the GC, and another time series. No, I want the histogram here, because it was a histogram data. Duration bucket, that's a histogram here. Show me the events. There was something here. Okay, it doesn't say it's blank. So maybe show me by the action here. I think there's something wrong here, but the GC histogram might be something by installation, but it doesn't say that the data was blank. Now it says no data, but I have this last for 30 minutes. Okay, this is the histogram of the actions of the of the GC. I love this. I genuinely love this. Normally, I would have to type this manually, but this is something. And the current GC pause. This duration. I'm assuming these are the durations of the actions here. Minor GC. These are counts, and these will be the durations, right? So and the pod memory usage has increased. That's interesting. For the duration of my test, this means that my default setup is not XMS versus like matching the XMS. So this is also interesting that they actually had reallocated a bit more memory for each of the pods. Again, the pod usage also does not necessarily mean that the container had not, right? The pod actually can contain multiple containers itself. I'm pretty sure my JPEG store installation does only one container per pod. Other containers are just initial containers, so they're only run at the initialization step. But it's also good to see that they actually are increasing. GC histogram, you know what? I would also like to, I don't know, maybe have them plotted somehow. In the GC duration, it's the sum of duration. This is duration count. Not sure how to treat that really. How would you count a duration of a GC? Is that like a rate? Okay, let's see what it returns actually, because I'm not quite sure how to interpret this metric here. And oftentimes when you are adding a new chart and you add those new values for that, very important to actually understand how how these metrics work, right? And what they actually represent. There's been like I've had a lot of problems in the past with the charts or the dashboards that were showing some data, but actually very few people understood what they were, and there was a lot of confusions about what they actually represent and what they don't represent, right? There's people screaming that there's some big mess up on the production system, and it turned out just to be the misunderstanding, or the dashboard was not like representative enough or clear enough what it actually represents, that it had caused many confusions, right? And this is stuff like that. They tend to actually cause more problems than be or than present more value, right? So again, the presentation and naming of conventions of the metrics and the dashboards you're presenting, very important for a production system, especially if many people use them. Uh, so that's something to pay attention to. Okay, I guess my mic is still working. That's totally fine. These metrics should be okay. So Kubernetes, not the node name. I need the pod name. Pod name contains JPEG store. Let's see what it actually does. Okay, this is some A metric. I'm guessing this is okay. So it's not a duration count. It is just a duration of the GC pause. That's totally fine. That's understandable. But I want to have it by pod name. So Kubernetes pod name. See, I don't work normally with CNOs on a daily basis, but it actually is proven to be very useful. So the duration here, I'm assuming this is in seconds, judging by the numbers here, and this is not crazy numbers. So we're talking about GC pause of point like 300 milliseconds, less than that. So that's kind of cool and kind of like I'm also not running any like large load or anything like that, but very useful for the GC pause time for Kubernetes node. Okay. Okay, so we have here the latency per endpoint. We have here the average CPU utilization per pod. We have the pod memory usage. I'll still try to figure out some metrics probably for the more for the JVM specific metrics rather than having the pod memory usage. In terms of JVM, this whole, of course, setup depends on your priority of your application, right? But if you want the maximum performance, you would normally never let it actually allocate this memory here, right? So if you're for all performance and you don't care about the costs of your application, or these are negligible, when you have a dedicated machines for your own JVMs, usually XMX equals XMN, as XMX equals XMS, and XMN. Not, don't do that. And that's going to be your like your go-to, right? But this in here, it looks like this actually these nodes actually allocate some more memory for each, which is fine. What I don't see right now, which is kind of worrying me, that I don't see as the are the new calls that I had spot triggered to be executed from my Gatling again. And the reason why I don't see them, of course, it's my fault, but something that to learn, I guess, from the Gatling is, well, you just don't run the test. You can, of course, probably specify those with your parameters, but you have to also specify your scenario. So I was kind of, I was going through the charts. I was going through the numbers I'm seeing here, but the Gatling, you guys cannot see it, of course, because I'm only streaming the window, because I've assumed wrongly that changing to window would actually help me with a capture. So I'm going to just do like this here. And now what I have forgotten to do was to select the scenario. So I've started the test, and I assume it was going to run And then I left it. I just moved back to configuring the dashboards for the Java application. The test didn't start at all, so it was just waiting for my prompt to which simulation I was going for. And actually, because I've downloaded just the basic simulation as well, so I've just where is that here? Because I also have another one for the example basic simulation, which is doing what? Which is testing the e-commerce application from Gatling. Um, then this is what the problems have occurred, right? And when they have started. So I could actually do this one thing, just delete that. I assume it's gonna work. I don't even know whether the is going to. But now I only have this one simulation. So next time when I run any test, they should be more. This should be more say it's faster to execute. The whole test took 15 minutes, but it's not right. It didn't take 15 minutes because for most of the time I was just playing around with the network and with the reporting. So that's also fine. Okay, so we have the actions here of which actions, what the duration was of them. Does it actually match the pause duration? No, it doesn't. I'll have to look at the histograms and what they actually represent. You know, there may be some confusions around that. There are like 5 events of the end of GC concurrent pause, end of minor. I'm not sure how they actually reflect the duration of the GC, and whether they actually do. So I would probably still put it on hold until I understand this fully. If I go to the last 15 minutes, I should see my CPU utilization growing per pod and also a clear difference between the latency per endpoint. So obviously the ordering system is taking a long time, right? So this might be the whole culprit of these slow aggregated responses. There is also some GC pauses right now triggered, which is fine, which is okay. But this is a count, right? So again, let's look at the GC because this might be a tricky one to validate. So this is a count duration and the okay we are summing that. Okay, this makes sense. We because I'm looking at the scenarios when we can have multiple GC occurrences in a minute, right? If we only like do like if we capture multiple of those, and this is a count for the duration, when we capture two samples or two GC events, again my screen froze. When we capture multiple occurrences of the GC pause, we want them to sum up. I want to know how much I'm spending time on the GC pauses for my application, right? Very useful and very meaningful situation here. We can also, if we are lucky, I should have a parser model installed here. So this is a bit more profiling tool rather than an observability. But also it's coming from the same family, right? So this is also fine. I want to sum by Kubernetes pod name. Sum by pod. Let's see if I can actually do something like this here. I should be able to isolate pod JPath store. If I could type correctly, now guys, how much time if I would spend normally by just learning to type? How much time I would save on a daily basis? You have no idea. Okay, so the pod, and I want the approximation here. JPath store. Is that going to work? No, there is some problem with parsing the query. I think I just broke it, you know. Yeah, there is another quotation mark. It shouldn't be there. So this guy is already showing me what my application was doing, right? And I have here I can do a pod guess aggregation. See here, so you can see the utilization, CPU utilization for each of the threads, right? Let's look at the bumps here for one of the pods. I don't think I should be summing them by com. I think if I just do it by pod, it also should give me some results, some good ones, right? And this parser is installable on your Kubernetes cluster, and it does continuous profiling, right? So I can already validate what was actually the culprit of the delay, or what had consumed the most CPU on the system, right? Very useful stuff. It goes into the whole stack trace, whole stack of your application, so you can easily validate what took the longest from your system, right? And in this case, the application was actually busy on serving the JSP calls, which is the same as I have seen um, inside my Signos installation, right? So very useful stuff, very cool installation, and very useful thing. Apart from having a open telemetry, right, installed. So this works independently, so you can just set up like have those like installations are also very reasonably easy, and you can easily validate the whole profile of the route, right? So you can see here some of the stuff we're going through the compiler, so it detected some hotspots that it could optimize. There was some parsers also going here, but the most time it had spent on actually serving the codes, right? I'm guessing if we okay, there is also some concurrent steps from the GC, but this is not a GC pause, not necessarily. Garbage collection thread also running concurrently to the application, and then they can validate and calculate some references at runtime, right? So then the concurrent the stop the world pauses will be shorter. So that's like if you see some worker threads with some concurrent marking task, this is not necessarily a stop the world event, right? Very useful to remember and very useful to know. Cool. Okay, cool. So let's go here. This panel is working fine. We have some increase in the utilization. We have some pod memory usage. We know that the order step takes way longer than the other. And we know, of course, that the application, so the test from the Gatling actually worked very well. This is going pretty cool. This is actually going very nice. Okay, I think now that we have some more stuff to do, I think we can pause for now. First of all, I have a lunch and dinner. It's still lunch waiting for me, so that's gonna be one thing. And yeah, I guess we can pause now. We can summarize what we have done so far. So I've touched on the installation of the Gatling. It's very easy. Just download these files and you're good to go. It comes with everything prepared, so that's very neat. We've covered the recording of the application. Some of my concerns have been addressed immediately by the end result of this of the simulation. So I like really from the recording perspective, everything went smoothly. One reservation that I had for that was the exposure of the parameterization of the test. That's something I could not see, at least from coming from first steps of installation and then digging out. We can probably look at it later. So parameterization and correlation, that's something to cover for us later. And what else is there? Uh, Test execution, but that's very easy. It had worked only because my application was not prepared for the most realistic scenarios, right? So that's something to think about, and that's why I'm addressing um, the problems with the problems. That's why I'm addressing the concerns about the parameterization and correlation, because normally under normal conditions, your application would throw some errors. You get some problems just because your application and your test was not properly parameterized, right? I could have 100 concurrent sessions for the same user without a problem. They were all distributed between all the servers, so all the sessions were granted. At the same time, I didn't have to worry about any unique parameters or correlations or the I don't know, tokens that were unique for validation. Like the whole security layer was just completely missing, right? Um, we could from the report determine also that the problem was somewhere in the in one of the steps, so that's very nice. So the reporting was actually proved to be useful. We have not covered the enterprise platform, so I'm not sure why they would, again, I understand the marketing thing for the for trying out the enterprise platform, but we did that without any issues. That's pretty much it. And what we didn't cover was the no code solution. If you guys are interested in that, if you guys want to see more of that, then just to let me know. I'll try my best to maybe to organize something with Gatling team. If you want some other tool, another product reviewed or hands-on, then just let me know as well. Also as well, just drop a comment, ping me on LinkedIn, and I will be happy to arrange something if there's also interest from the vendors, right? So in any case, thank you very much. I'll probably reconnect later to finish up and to validate what is actually happening in the script and in my application to verify why are they so slow, especially for the order API, right? The rest of it seems okay, so that I'm not worried about it. But the order API is something to be fixed or at least validated. 2 seconds is way too much. Thank you very much. I'm gonna stop the stream now and have a nice day.